Hey, everybody. I apologize for the technical difficulties, but we are back. And my name is Holly. We'd like to welcome you guys to Morning Mimosas, where we put value in criminal justice, promoting healing and education for our Black community. You guys, this episode is Just Us, well, Justice for Just Us. And the ladies that I have on today, we will be discussing what justice looks like for us. So let's go ahead and start with our first guest from This Could Be a Book podcast, Miss Fatou. Let's welcome her on.
Hello, everyone. Happy Saturday. Glad to be back.
While I have her on here, you guys please check out the interview that I did with her. It is also in our Facebook. It dropped today, so just wanted to make that announcement. And then our next guest will be a investigator with the Public Defender's Office of Rochester, New York, Miss Nye. Let's welcome her.
Hi, y'all. Thanks for having me.
We are so glad to have you. I can't wait to talk to you
Glad to be
ladies.
here.
And then our special guest, who I told you guys, now just to remain a little bit of a mystery, she is our on-call guest host. Please welcome Miss Globe to Morning Mimosas.
Hi, I'm so glad to be here. Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday, ladies. So let's get right into it. Let's go ahead and start with a cold case victim that today is his what would have been his 37th birthday, Xavier Walker. I'm actually going to go ahead and play a clip. He was 16 years old when he was murdered in 2002, and the case is still unsolved. So let's go ahead and this is actually the source is the Denver Police YouTube channel, and let's go ahead and take a look at what happened to Xavier Walker.
This is Denver Police case number 2002-53625, which is a cold case homicide investigation of Xavier Walker, which occurred on Wednesday, November 20th, 2002. Xavier was shot once in the chest and pronounced deceased at Denver Health Medical Center.
He is my son, my only son. I should have never had to bury my little brother being 16 years old. That was just like the worst day of my life.
On Wednesday, November 20th, 2002, about 3:30 in the afternoon, Denver police officers responded to Falcon Park in Montbello. Callers reported a large group of individuals, a fight, and subsequently gunshots fired in the park. When the officers arrived, they found 16-year-old Xavier Walker suffering from a gunshot wound in the chest. He was found just to the east of the bleachers in the park. He was transported to Denver Health Medical Center, where he was pronounced deceased. From all the reports that we had from the scene, he wasn't involved in the fight. It looks like he was just maybe there to see what was going on.
That day I was working in the ER, and I noticed there were a lot of police in the ER. So I said, "Hey, did an officer get shot?" And they're like, "No, it was the kid in Montbello." And I said, "Montbello?" And all of a sudden, I heard a scream in the driveway. It was my niece. She was like, "Auntie, I think Xavier, something happened to Xavier. I don't know. I think he's been shot." I was maybe like 2 or 3 blocks away from the park, and I had seen my cousin, and she had told me that my brother got shot. And I didn't believe her. I was like just standing there looking at her, and she told me to get in the car. I didn't know at the time where Xavier was. I didn't know what had taken place. Somebody grabbed my shoulders, and it was like, "Xavier, he's in the paramedics." The paramedics were bringing him over, and I just dropped the phone and I just ran over there. My brother came and he said, "Let's go. Um, I think Xavier is dead." I mean, that's just something that you never want to see your relative come in dead on a gurney. I will never forget that day in my life. I wanted him to have a full on loving life, but his life was cut short. Whoever have done this, I pray that they have a heart, you know. Please come forth. Don't let fear stand in your way.
His case has been a cold case for a long time, and I just want it to be solved because he deserves that. He was a good person. He didn't deserve to go as early as he did.
I just pray that whoever did this, my brother, will come forward. Just please have a heart, because we're suffering on the inside. He was my only brother, and I miss him dearly.
Someone out there knows who shot this young man. We're hoping that someone will come forward and tell us what happened. If you know anyone that was there that day or anyone that has any information about this case, please call Crime Stoppers. You can remain anonymous. Just the smallest bit of information can help us bring this case to a conclusion.
It's hard because a month after my son died, my husband died, and they both were my strength. It's so hard. 14 years have gone by, and I just pray that justice will be served.
Wow.
Um, so at the time of that video, it was, like I said, the source of that video is the Denver police, and that was in 2016, so almost 7 years ago. It'll be 21 years in November. And today would have been his 37th birthday, y'all.
Happy heavenly birthday.
Happy heavenly birthday, Xavier Walker.
And I'm sorry that nobody has been brought to justice for what happened to you.
For real.
Somebody has to know. It's a fight.
Right. Seriously, it's, a group of high school kids. I mean, we all remember being in high school and, being nosy and wanting to see what was going on, but I don't know. It just weighs heavy on my heart because listening to his sisters and his mom talk about him like that. And then, she lost her husband, a month after.
Yeah, heartbreak.
Wow.
Complete heartbreak.
This is why I want people to start coming forward. So I'm speaking to my people in Denver now. This is why I need you guys to come forward. You guys, seriously, I need you guys to dead that no snitching out of y'all's heads, okay? That family deserves healing, and they deserve the truth, and they deserve justice just as Xavier does. And my message to the Denver police, keep investigating. Don't let this turn into 30 years. You guys already let it turn into 20. Don't let it become 30. But
Unfortunately, as an investigator, when you don't have too many leads, it's only so much you can do. And I'm a little different since, I'm an investigator for the public defender's office. So it's kind of like, we defend the criminals. But in essence, if you don't have anything but eyewitness testimony, it's hard to move forward. It's hard to have the judge sign off on anything if you don't have that piece. And it's very essential in any part of an investigation in a cold case. So now the bigger question is, why don't people come forward? Because sometimes I think it's bigger than a no snitching thing. It may be a community aspect. The community is small. People know things. And sometimes people feel like, I don't want to be involved because I don't want, my safety to be in danger, my family to be in danger. We know a lot of times witnesses do come forward and the police have a very hard time even defending them or saying they try to say that, we'll protect you, we'll do this and that. But it's a lot of times people do not want to come forward and testify for particular reasons.
Also, a different aspect when you were just talking too, a lot of eyewitness testimony is not reliable.
True.
Oh yeah.
10 people witnessing, let's lessen it to 5 people witnessing something. They're all going to see something different.
Yep.
Car color, hair color, shape,
Yep.
So that's also you could be in denial of what you really saw. Did you really see that? And do I want to
Yep.
open this can of worms and get my safety involved? And I'm completely wrong.
Yep.
You know,
That
the
is
only
absolutely
person
true.
who knows for a fact what happened is the person that pulled the trigger.
Yep.
Yeah.
That is
And
true.
they gonna self-preservation themselves to death. They're not gonna say nothing. They could already be locked up for something different because, you know,
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, if you've done this once and you've gotten away with it, you're gonna continue because you're gonna get cocky and think that, oh, you know, I'm not gonna be smart and say even though I feel like a horrible person, I don't want to go to prison for the rest of my life. Just let me chill and relax. You're gonna keep doing it.
Yep.
That is
So luck
unfortunately
may be
true.
on the side of something, and somebody may come forward and they're already in prison.
That is true. Ms. Fatou, did you want to go ahead and present the cases that you have for us today?
Yes, I want to talk about. So I hit my homegirl Googleisha up to see what was going on in Houston specifically about the cold cases. And so what I found is that back in March of last year, Houston Police Department was awarded a grant of $1.3 million. A lot of that came from the Emmett Till Foundation. Some of it came from like just grants in order to reopen cold cases, but there's a caveat to that. It's cold cases from the 70s, Black men who are homosexual. That's it. And the DNA that will be ran off of those cases either have to have DNA on the body or in of course, the general of the evidence up close. Um, when I look to see, there are 660 cold cases from the 70s. I would like to point out that I was born in the 70s, 74. So if there was somebody that was murdered in 74, it's been 48 years, 49 years now that these families don't have answers. That means somebody's mother, sister, brother, whomever has gone to the grave not getting resolution, which is hurtful in itself because the next generation carries that on. It just keeps going. So far, only 104 of those cases, now that haven't been solved, been identified as let's go ahead and work those. To date, it didn't say how many to date have been. They showcased one from September of 22 that they got evidence from DNA that they're trying to reopen. It's from a stabbing victim, Rafus Ray Brigham. Not too far from actually where I live. I live downtown, so I'm kind of close to everything. But this is over in like the third ward side of town. And it was only opened because he told his brother-in-law that he was homosexual. Otherwise, just like other men, other people, this is not even women. These are only men. So I'll state that as well. These are men, not women who were killed. That they're just opening, it's paying for overtime, the grant is. So I'm really hoping that the overtime is really being spent on the cases and not just overtime, collecting a paycheck. I was happy to hear that they got the grants, but a year later, we're still we're still not close to anything. So what's happening? It did give a number, so I'll be stalking them on Monday to see what I can find out, if they'll give me any answers, and I'll report back in our group chat about it and see and let you know what I found. Very happy that even though it's a little victory, it's still a step forward in the war to end cases that are of our people that are not solved. I did wonder though, as I was reading the articles, are they just trying to get this serial killer angle going on? Like what's really happening? And why specifically only homosexual Black males killed in the 70s?
That is
Very
interesting, though.
interesting.
Very interesting. Yeah.
Like, why only those specifics and not all of the Black men, since you're only
Right.
dealing with men?
Do you
As if
think it might have something to do with like STDs and HIV and stuff like that?
maybe so, maybe
Hmm.
so. I just think that it's just very odd, or that number is so little that if they work on that, we as a people jump as small victories, thinking that we are ahead of the game. instead of solving people who were, they could have been drug dealers, or this baby here who was just an innocent bystander.
Right.
Right.
They deserve the same amount of cold case work as someone who was homosexual. Sexual orientation shouldn't determine whether I work your case or not.
Exactly.
And really, skin color shouldn't matter, but we know that.
Right. Right. That
You
part.
know that it do.
Yeah, that was the first thing that I thought was interesting. And then the second was, I was on TikTok and I found out about the Khalil Azad. I think it's very strange in the sense of, so he outran the police. It was not a routine traffic stop. It should have been, but clearly they say that he was intoxicated. He drove the wrong way on the streets, got into an accident. He ran, but the passenger stayed. So they claim that, I guess, I don't know, they waited 30 minutes to chase him, which is very unbelievable, into the woods. And so they released the body cam footage of them slowly walking with canines to find him. But this was 30 minutes later. What happened in those 30 minutes? Because I saw a video, not a video, but a picture of what he looked like in the autopsy, which is what made his parents say, I need to see the body cam. And why did he drown in 2 feet of water? And he was like at least 6 foot tall. So that doesn't make sense, intoxicated or not. He looked like he was beaten. It was bad. It didn't even look like the same person. And so this happened in July of 22. They're just now recently starting to even fight the fight. That's it. That's insane. And they didn't release the body cam. So then you have to go with the coroner's office, who probably is employed by whatever their police department. So they're not going to say that there was foul play. They basically said that he died of intoxicated drowning in fresh water. Basically. If he had enough stamina to outrun you for 30 minutes, he didn't have enough stamina to stand up in 2 feet of water? Like, make that make sense to me.
Yeah.
At least come up with a more believable lie.
Yeah.
And then the people who have murdered him are just still probably doing it to others, but they still working. They still collecting that paycheck.
Yeah.
They still out here harassing people. If you had the passenger, why didn't you just wait to arrest him later? What was the big deal?
Exactly.
That case kind of reminds me of Sandra Bland. As in, you get into police custody and now all of a sudden all of these blanks come into play, and we're trying to create a timeline, and now she's dead. And myself, because I used to do like internships looking into like wrongful convictions and stuff like that. And a lot of times with cold cases and wrongful convictions, forensics and DNA is the only thing that really would have them reopen the case. If you don't have either or, it's kind of like you should have luck. And that's sad because sometimes, we see a lot of these men get exonerated 25, 30 years later. After they spent that time in prison for forensic evidence that they found, most likely from another case that had nothing to do with anything. And it just goes to show, when it comes to like the Azad case and like Sandra Bland, when it comes to these internal police departments and stuff like that, people know the truth. They're not going to shake up anything that I have them looked at as the whistleblower. Because if you start blowing the whistle, then you're starting to do an investigation on internal affair of the whole department. And it bothers me that we still have no justice for Sandra Bland. How is it that she died in police custody, and the way they, held her up in the mugshot? She was dead already.
She was already dead. Yeah. Yeah. And then you have to look at that as well and say, if I'm in that department and I see that they did this to this person and they got away with it, what are they going to do to me?
Yep.
If I speak up, yeah.
If I speak up, yeah. And they may not do anything to me personally. They could kill my family member.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because when you're in that department, people know what you love. They know how to hit you the worst. because you start to build relationships and people you talk. So
Yeah.
it's really unfortunate. And I know that, I had shared with Holly about the Colin Kaepernick show on Hulu, talking about the Bakersfield um, police department, how rough and rugged they are. And it triggered me so much that I just stopped watching it for a minute,
Yeah.
because especially after the part where they portrayed this person to be so evil. They put his police record out and all of this, all to find out that they knew all along that he was an informant, that he was helping them capture someone else, and he got shot up in the car. And his family found out about it and and someone from the news found out. That's the only way that people found out that yes, he may have had this record, but he was cleaning himself up. And basically, he was an informant, and they had text messages showing that they were helping him apprehend someone who was dangerous, and they killed him.
Wow.
It's the corruption, undercover police. It's just at its
Wow, wow,
core
wow.
ruthless.
Very. Um, it's good though. Um, with me being an investigator because I learned a lot. And investigations is crucial to uncovering the truth. So a lot of times people think like, the public defenders, you guys are representing the criminals, right? But in reality, a lot of times these people do stuff, and then a
Mm-hmm.
lot of time they don't. And a lot of times, like I was saying earlier, like the prosecution and things like that, they do anything for a conviction. And when I say
Mm.
anything, that goes with the corruption, and that goes to they go through all these hoops to do things the wrong way. So being an investigator, we're able to uncover the truth, and also leads to a lot of misconduct that these parole officers do, that the DAs do, that the police investigators do, and it makes you think, are you guys really trying to convict these people, to make the world a better place and to send people away? Or are you guys finding false evidence, placing false evidence, making up lies, coercing these witnesses and victims
Mm.
just to get a conviction? So it
Some of
makes you
with the
really
last.
wonder, when you have a lot of incarcerated people saying, I didn't do it, did you really do it? You
Mm-hmm.
can really question that. Nowadays. So again, like a lot of this misconduct and the people behind the scenes, it plays a crucial role to figure out the facts from, fabrications all the time.
Wow, wow, wow. Miss Globe, what is your stance on everything that's been said thus far? It's been a lot.
Yes.
It's the
um,
truth though. Ooh wee. Huh.
very much the truth. And it all kinds of ties in together. What I said about the misconduct that happens in the background, it has to, for them, it has to be mutually beneficial for the system in the end, which is why we see a lot of these cases not prioritized, because it might compromise how they look. Because there are some cases where when there are unfortunately black police officers at fault, they waste no time going ahead and nipping that in the bud, especially now,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
to kind of control the narrative and say,
Mm-hmm.
hey,
That
it's
part.
not just all sorry, it's not just all white cops or anything like that, but it's a
No, it's
system.
not. Yeah.
It's a system that's blue, lives matter blue as a whole system that is separate, unfortunately, from us civilians and humanity, and they have their own
Mm.
rules. They have their own no snitch policy going
Mhm.
on behind the scenes, which is why we have these unexplained deaths in police custody, which can easily be explained. Someone knows, but they have their own
Okay.
separate culture. So it's very hard for a lot of people to trust them and look at them as human or as the peace officers or protectors, because they are operating in their own completely different system, and their loyalties don't necessarily always lie with us, even if deep in their heart that's where they want what they
Mm-hmm.
want. They have to operate by a different set of rules.
Wow.
I
Mm-mm-mm.
agree.
No, I agree too. That's
Mm-hmm.
perfectly said. But we're actually gonna switch over to justice for, our living brothers and sisters too. So the wrongfully convicted brothers and sisters. I was talking to Ms. Nye earlier, and I think Ms. Fatou, she was in that chat. She was telling us about a gentleman that she interviewed. Ms. Nye, can you tell us about that, please?
Yeah, so for my own podcast, Urban Council, it started off as like a legal podcast with just like everything legal, but I kind of branched it out to the difficult conversations that we need to have in the Black and Brown community and how we can educate each other to recognize our own rights. So part of the show is called From the Cell to the Streets. So I interview incarcerated individuals to give them a chance to speak their truth, speak their stories. Everybody has their own mindset of what an incarcerated individual is and if they spent many years in prison. So a lot of times I try to talk to um, men that's been incarcerated 10 plus years. And this particular individual spent he got sentenced to 20 years. So he's been in about 12 so far for something that he didn't do. And we talked about his case and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And a lot of it came back to the murder investigator or whatever. And this particular investigator that was on top of his case was getting tried federally at the time for coercion and
Ah,
taking bribes from individuals
mhm.
and stuff like that.
Wow.
So the DA found out about it and they asked the judge to sit, can he be dismissed from the case? Because he had his own case going on and the judge allowed it. Now, if the jury was able to hear that, that this investigator that was on top of this case that investigated this whole case was going through his own thing, of just misconduct, years of misconduct and things like that being tried federally, I believe it would have went a certain way. And they end up charging him with manslaughter and not murder because they had no weapon. The eyewitness testimonies was very spotty. It was like really nothing. It was really nothing, and it was really one of those things whereas we have to convict this individual to shut the community up, and it's also politics. It's
Yeah.
also like Miss Globe said, it stick together blue iron, but it's also if we get more convictions, our conviction rate goes up. It makes us look good. We get more,
Mm-hmm.
money for the department and things like that. And whether he had a past background or not, it really makes you think of, here's the best part, the actual murder investigator was Black. So again, it's
Oh,
not a white versus Black
no.
thing.
No, it's
It's
not.
we stick
Mm-mm.
together on our blue iron, blue wall type of thing. So you have this individual that's been spent the last 12 years in prison since the age of 18. And that
Wow.
episode was really him talking about, the things that he's been through and navigating through the system, becoming a boy to a man in prison for something that he didn't do. And
Wow.
a lot of the individuals that I talked to, again, they may have done things, but most of the time when they're incarcerated, it's for something that they didn't do. So I just find it very interesting, and I took interest to his case because of what I was able to find out about the investigator. And this investigator particularly has been on First 48 that has come to Rochester, or, Crime 360. And I believe he retired from RPD. And it's just like, these people know what's going on. So an issue was trying to find a lawyer in the area that would be able to take his case and to pick it apart. And a lot of it was locally. And this is what a attorney told me locally, is that you're not going to find anybody locally that's going to want to take the case. Your best bet is to find a private
Mhm.
investigator outside the state, because if they have to go in deeper and get into the internal affairs of RPD and the court system, it's not going to do them any justice because they don't live there. So you're going to have a lot of people.
Mm.
And that was his problem. You're not
Mhm.
really going to find no lawyers that's going to want to take your case because looking at it is BS. And I'm not a lawyer, but it's not rocket science to look at it and to see exactly what happened. they were able to say, well, it was 3 individuals that did this actual crime. The particular investigator went to the three individuals that was pointed out, and he never took them downtown for questioning. It kind of like stopped there, and it was like, well, yeah, we had this we had the altercation with the boy, but we just ran him off the street, and that was that. So as an investigator, I would be like, well, let me take all 3 of y'all down for
Mm-hmm.
Right.
investigation. It stopped completely there. So that, when I was reading through it, is what made me start trying to like peel the onion back, and I found so much more about it. So it just that's just one of many. I'm still interviewing 2 other guys right now. Um Not all of them are wrongful convictions. This first one from the soul to the streets was, but at that time, he was young, he took a plea,
Yeah.
so
Mm-hmm.
it's also the coercion, as if you go to trial, they're gonna give it to you. You're gonna do all this
Mm-hmm. Yep.
time, whether it's if you take this plea, you'll get 20 years, you'll only do 17, but you'll still have time to get out, type of things.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
it's
hate
very
that.
disheartening, because it's just like you can really look at it, and if all the odds are against you as an 18-year-old young man, you don't really know about the legal system, your family don't really know about the legal system. If I
Mhm.
was in that predicament, I would probably just take the plea too.
And not really, really fully understanding that even when you get out, your life is going to be exactly like you were in, because it's
Yeah.
going to have a hard time getting employment. You're already, especially if it's like murder or theft, no one is going to want to hire you. So you're going to end up offending again just to survive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's like something already attached to you. So I
Yeah.
interviewed a young woman named Sarah. We're actually friends, and she's white, and she did 2 years in prison. Um and before that, she's never been in trouble, nothing like that. She was going to school for being a teacher. And she said when she came home, I mean, she's obviously not black, but she said the attachment being a felon to her
Hmm.
for the rest of her life, she can understand now how people of color navigate through life. We have this on us. We black. It can't
Yeah.
have it. It don't matter wherever we go. We're always
Yeah.
going to be looked at a certain way and treated a certain way because of what's attached to us. And I found that very interesting for her to say, because it's like, now me being a felon, I get a taste of that. People looking down on me, or I'm not getting the same opportunities because
Hmm.
I'm a felon. So imagine being black, being a felon, and being a man that has been
Agreed.
incarcerated and institutionalized all these years. Your youth was spent in prison.
Yeah.
So
They call it a second chance, but it's not really.
No.
it's not.
Mm-mm. It's
No.
for life, and then the aspect of you get used to living that way, that being out, especially if you went in while you're young and so many changes have occurred and you can't keep up,
Mm-hmm.
that's basically home for you.
Yep.
So you want to go back to what feels normal. And it would be interesting to know what the statistics are on people who actually went in young and then got out as mature adults and actually are a success rate, and not reoffended and went back in just to be comforted, even though that's not comfortable, but it's all you
Yeah.
know.
That's all you know. The recidivism rate is high. Unfortunately, New York State right now, they're proposing a clean slate bill, which would wipe away and make your, obviously, your slate clean after prison. If you don't have any like heinous crimes, certain like non-violent or certain violent crimes will be erased. They ain't passing it. They're
They're not
not
going to.
passing it.
Yeah,
Mm-mm.
yeah,
They're
they're
not
not
going
going
to.
to.
They're not
No.
going to. It sounds good, but in reality, there's people that, you did the crime, you did the time. That's true. But now I want to start my life over as a law abiding citizen. Everybody has that right. And for it to be attached to them forever, you can't vote, you can't do certain things. It's
Yeah.
Right.
kind of messed up.
Yep.
Exactly.
You don't even gain really much rights back. If you're
No.
on parole, we have the right to come to your house anytime we want to.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime.
Stop you
Piss test
anytime you
you.
want. This
Yep.
doesn't
Yep.
even look like it should be here, so we're going to take you back. There's
Right.
just
Yep.
it's just so many different avenues on how when you start down that wrong and not even really wrong road, because you could be completely innocent, wrong place, wrong time, and your
Right.
life is just done.
Yeah.
That is very
Yeah.
true. So if I can
Yeah.
actually speak on something that Ms. Nye was talking about. So there's actually a gentleman, I think, in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I think he did like 30 years for an armed robbery or something. And he came out of jail. I think he did it when he was like 18 or something like that. And he came out like when he was like 40 something. And then I don't know if he just couldn't handle being on the outside. He ended up killing two people.
Mm.
Um, like a few days after he got out. And that just goes back to, are these prisons really here to rehabilitate? Because I don't think they're really doing that. They're not rehabilitating nobody. I mean, I don't know. It just
It it depends on the individual.
okay, that's
Um,
true.
it depends on the individual. A lot of times, people, when you in prison, you lose all your control. Somebody telling you when to eat, when to piss, when to shower, when to get in line, when to do all this. So you would imagine the first thing you do getting out of prison, you got your control back. Can't nobody tell you, if you're not on papers, what to do. And I think sometimes having all of that power to be back in control is overwhelming. And people don't know what to do with it. It's not an excuse for, committing new crimes and things like that. But sometimes it'd be like sensory overload, you
Mm-hmm.
know. One individual that I'm interviewing right now, he's been in there 20 years already, and he
Mm-hmm.
said that it's all a mental thing for him to stay consistent and to want to do better. But there's a lot of people like him that he has saw that aren't that strong, mentally, and fall to doing drugs in jail and don't take they do have programs and stuff like that. But it's a lot of people that don't take, the responsibility to get some of those programs done and to try to be better in prison. So I also think it is on an individual basis, but as a whole, these institutions are really, they want you to recidivize. They want you to come out and be like, you know what? This is why they need to be in cages, because they can't handle it, and they can't
Mm-hmm.
handle the order. And it's really backed up, and even with like wrongful convictions and cold cases and stuff like that. And I'll ask you ladies, why do you think certain, and even like when we think of like Amber Alerts and stuff like that, certain ones are prioritized than others?
Mm-hmm.
And other
Mm-hmm.
than a skin color thing, why? What are you guys' opinions of why that happens?
Hmm. Other than skin color, I would definitely say the amount of information that the family member is given. Um,
Okay.
Sometimes they don't have that much information, but if they have a car, like we normally see like the license plates and things like that, they can scan that and they can see if this is a person they've been after for a
Mhm.
while or anything like
Mm-hmm.
that. And so that'll be one of, I don't want to say the rare occurrences, but one of the occurrences you'll see an Amber Alert put out for like a missing black child or something like that, because
Mhm.
they see some kind of benefit in apprehending the
Mm-hmm.
father or whoever has taken them. But I think it's just those extra layers. There always has to be some benefit. It's never really out of the good nature of their heart,
Wow.
or a family that just knows they know their stuff, and so they have all the details, and they have a huge village that's rallying behind, like, you absolutely need to put this on the alert. um, those are other things other than race that can definitely impact why they're prioritized and sent out. That's just my theory and a little bit of
That
what I've
makes
heard
perfect
from people
sense.
who found.
No, it's perfect. I always think it goes
Yeah.
back to money,
Yep.
money and numbers.
Benefit, yeah.
Yeah, they want more money. Certain amount of people have been released, and so we're missing some money. So let's go out and find you
Mhm.
know, this specific person or whatever it is. There has to be some type of gain, like Ms. Globe said. Otherwise, I don't think they care.
What's the reason? Yeah.
Hmm.
Wow.
Or if it hits close to home, it could be one of your
That's true.
family members or an extended
That's
family member,
true.
and
Yep.
I want to get that person because this is what you did to my family, regardless
Yeah.
of what that payoff looks like.
I encourage people all the time to speak up, because if we make it more of a community outrage,
Hmm.
that's how
Mhm.
these cases get brought back to light. So one of my
Yes.
cold cases was the Shanquella Robinson
Yes.
that got killed in vacationing with her so-called friends in Mexico back, it was October, November of
Yep.
2022.
Hmm.
And what's interesting to me is that it's March and now the family is on TV asking for help from the president. Like, what is going on
Right.
that we, the autopsy came out, medical examiner came out, she wasn't killed from alcohol, snapped her neck or whatever the case may be. What do this family really have to do to really get the justice that they deserve? Um,
Not to mention the video of the fight.
the video,
Exactly.
the
So
video.
yeah, it's just it, and then if I remember correctly, they used her credit card and brought her luggage home, and
Exactly.
there's
All
just
that.
no
It's a
way.
lot of loopholes, a lot. Um, and I think that us as a community, if we stick together and make more outrage, that pushes these police
Hmm.
departments and agencies to be like, we gotta do something. I feel like if George Floyd or certain other things, if it wasn't for protesting and things like that, would we
Mhm.
have
No,
necessarily got the justice deserved?
no, absolutely not.
Nope.
Because I think the only
Nope.
reason why they even started to attempt to get justice was because it started coming out online.
Yeah,
Mhm.
even
Otherwise,
the
they
Ahmaud
Social media.
Arbery. Yeah.
Otherwise, it
Mhm.
would have been another story of, you know, a girl who goes on vacation with her pseudo friends and they murdered her. And I still feel like it was a collective effort.
It was a
It
collective
was.
Like
effort,
I feel
yeah.
Oh,
like
it
the
sure was.
vacation was just for that.
It was just for that. Yep.
Just for that.
Premeditated as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But it's
Definitely.
just interesting that nothing has came forward so far, and I'm gonna
Right.
be very, very disappointed if Mr. Biden and Miss Harris don't get on top of this
Yeah.
fast and do something about it, because like you said, not only is the family involved, Mexico involved, it's a video that's been circulating. One thing about the 21st century and millennials, everybody record.
Yeah.
Everything is being recorded. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like if we didn't have that big piece of evidence and to show this, like what and it's there. So what are we really doing, and why do these cases go cold? A lot of cases went cold without video,
Mm-hmm.
evidence and stuff like that, but it really makes you wonder. We have all of this here now and it's still not being, you know,
It's not being
taken
solved.
apart.
It's not being worked. It's just like it goes back to they know who did it. They just don't care. It's not beneficial for them right now.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Later on, it will be for whatever reason unknown, of course, to us. But it's all unfortunate.
it's terrible.
Very much so. But I'm actually gonna go ahead and talk. This is actually gonna be our last point for the day. So me and Miss Fatu and Miss Knight will be we're actually working on a little something. I'm not gonna say too much about what it
I'm
is,
so
but
excited.
we
Me too.
we we just, some information came to me today about a wrongfully convicted brother in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and we are going to do our part to get the word out. That's all I'm gonna say. So I just
Mm-hmm.
want you guys to look out for that specific thing. That it's going to be a podcast collab with all three of us, and like I need people to take our podcasting seriously. If I could actually just talk about that, because we're not here just us four beautiful women on a screen just talking. We actually do things behind the scenes, y'all. Like, I don't know if y'all know that. We actually do things behind the scenes to make sure that we're getting justice. We are actually about that action, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to make that disclaimer real quick for people who just say, oh, it's just podcasting. Okay. Wait till you see the documentaries that are coming out. Okay. It's gonna be huge. But Ladies, I just wanted you guys' final words for justice for just us.
I would like for some of the coins that Houston got to work the cold cases to bust open and get to more people and not a small demographic so they can use the rest of the money for something else. I want people to stand up and say, I know what happened. Be strong, don't be cowards. And it's easy to say sitting behind, the screen and all of that. But if someone was murdered in front of me, I'm not going to hold on to the secret, because that could be one of my family members the same way. And one of my family members was actually murdered, but his case is solved, because people spoke up and didn't just let it slide. Holding on to stuff is eating you on the inside and you're slowly dying anyway. So let it out and be free.
Mhm. I would say my final word is definitely us as Black and brown people educate ourselves. My grandma always told me that knowledge is going to be what's going to push you forward. And a lot of people don't stand up because they are ignorant to certain facts and certain things. And the more that we know, we'll be able to come together as a community. And also, we have to break these biases, like you said, the not telling and not certain things. I know it's a lot of it is street politics and hood politics, but again, if it was your own family member and things like that, it'd be a totally, totally different ball game. So it's just like do unto others as you want, done unto you, and really get out there in the field. We always talk about is injustices and things like that. And like Miss Holly said, we out here behind the scenes doing what we can. So we need more people. If you're gonna speak up for injustices and you don't like what's happening, you got to get out in your community and do the work too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was gonna say is that we need to view one another as a family. We have to remember that we say all cops are bad, and they're blue lives, but they treat each other as family. If one
There
of
it
them
is.
is doing wrong, they are going to protect each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, and if they're looking out for us instead of looking out for them, they see that as an offense. So, if someone is hurting somebody in our community, if you see something wrong happening, we need to take that same policy and say this is a
Mm-hmm.
offender of our system, of our progress, of what we're trying to do for our
Mm,
community.
yes.
And we need to report that and make sure that they're held accountable so that we can keep on growing. Because
Yeah.
trust me, they're not looking out for us. There's nobody stepping out and being the voice of reason to protect
Nope.
us. So we have to be that. We have to kind of be a little bit militant about that to protect ourselves as a community and keep progressing.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That is there. That was a good one. You see me, I had the
Yeah.
Yeah.
pointer
I wanted
fingers
to.
ready, like,
Yeah.
you feel me? I was like, that was deep for real. But I'd
Yeah.
like to thank you ladies for coming on Morning Mimosas. You guys I'm definitely inviting you three back. This was an amazing conversation, and community, you guys know you guys needed to hear this information. So
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna go ahead and say toodaloo to y'all.
Till
And
next
as you guys
time. Till next time.
until next time, as you guys know, this is Morning Mimosas, where we put value in criminal justice, promoting healing and education for our Black community. You guys stay tuned.
What you waiting for?